Hey Thumpers, welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes here on Hyper RPG.
I'm just gonna start every episode now with
that.
Wakandan salute.
forever.
Wakandan salute.
Wakandan salute. Very good, very good.
That movie has just blown my mind, you guys. I'm gonna go watch it for a third time
Yeah, me too.
this weekend.
Let's do it.
You guys, you're
gotta
gonna
go
be out
watch
of
it
town.
with
I'm gonna be here.
Let's go watch it with Pooch.
Well, his wife's out of town. I sent
darn
Pooch.
it.
I sent Pooch a message, and I was like, "Have you seen Black Panther yet?" He's like, "My wife is out of town. I'm not watching this movie without my black wife." He's like, "Are you kidding me?"
I do love watching Jess's stories about when Pooch is asleep.
Oh yeah, it's
Those
the
are my
best.
favorite. Those are my favorite.
He also just put out on his Instagram the scenes he was in for that Suge Knight.
Oh,
when
right.
he played Vanilla
Vanilla
Ice for
Ice.
that
Vanilla
BET
Ice.
Yeah,
Death
that
Row
was pretty
Chronicles
amazing.
things. It looks awesome.
It looks-
I missed
it looks
it,
really
but
good.
it looks awesome.
His commentary is incredible.
yeah, his
Yeah.
commentary is great.
I definitely. I don't know where we can watch that, but I would love to watch it.
I don't know.
We'll find it.
We'll
If he has a copy, we'll have to watch it at Pooch's house.
That'd be
with
awesome.
Pooch.
Yeah.
We
Barbecuing.
need a Pooch if you're watching.
Bitch.
We're planning a night at your house. So.
Totally.
Coming over, dude.
Yeah.
So interesting news today. Joss Whedon has exited Batgirl.
Can we go back to vamping? Because I don't want to talk about this.
Interesting. Well, interesting because like we talked about
It is
right
interesting.
before
Yeah, no,
the show
it's-
started rolling was the internet's decision on this is either 50% is like thank God Joss is out, the other 50% is more or less like oh great another director is exiting the DC universe. So I kind of find myself in this middle ground where I'm bummed that Joss Whedon's not on it because I've liked his movies that he's made previously.
Sure.
But I'm not mad about the fact that this brings an opportunity to bring in another
Somebody
great
else, yeah.
new director, another
That was refreshing
You know.
to read.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was refreshing to read in what was the article? Was it Hollywood Reporter?
Hollywood Reporter, yeah.
Hollywood Reporter put out this thing, and even before I read it, I thought to myself, I don't know what it's going to say in there. I saw the headlines and everything, Joss Whedon leaving, and I was like, I also didn't want to click on it because it was going to bum me out, and I didn't want to, just be like, well, this doesn't mean that something is we're going to get it sooner. That's the thing. I'm like, I want to see a Batgirl movie. I really want to see whoever makes it. I want to see a Batgirl movie. But before I even clicked on it, I thought, wouldn't it be great if, with everything that's sort of happening, especially with these kinds of movies lately, these kinds of trends that are happening where people that don't normally get to direct these kinds of movies and fans that don't normally get to see movies starring not dudes in like the superhero role, they're kind of asking for more of this kind of stuff. I thought, wouldn't it have been great if Joss Whedon was really like, you know what, on second thought, I don't think I should be the person to direct this. This should be helmed by a female-centric, like a leader. A project that is about a female character should maybe be directed by a female director because... Just because, for many, many, many obvious reasons. And then I clicked on it and read the thing that the Hollywood Reporter said, which was the decision for Whedon to depart was a mutual one and reflects the studio's desire to seek more female directors, particularly on projects centered on female characters. So read that little thing and I'm like, that would be awesome. That is awesome if Warner Brothers didn't indeed like say that to sort of tell to the Hollywood Reporter to tell us. Like, I think that's great. So yeah, I'm with you, Adam.
Yeah.
It's like I've liked a lot of Joss Whedon's stuff, his comic books, his comic book centric movies. I think that he understands the comic book world.
Absolutely.
And I think that for the controversy that he's gone under for how he has sort of portrayed himself as a feminist, and a lot of people that have just kind of looked at his life, and some people that know him and everything like that have said that's not necessarily the case. Despite all of that stuff, which is still valid, I still feel like in the grand scheme of things, he did create and write very, very good female characters, and he knew how to approach some of that stuff in a landscape that was predominantly dominated by like male directors and writers and that kind of stuff. So I've liked a lot of his stuff, and so on the one hand, I am bummed that he doesn't get to do another comic book thing because I think he's good in that world. But I'm also happy that this could be an opportunity for a female director to come in and make a badass movie, and it could be something close to Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. But then again, I'm also bummed because it means we're not going to get it sooner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a big if. Like, we don't know where Warner Brothers' head's at right now. Like, everything's so up in the air that it's just, it's hard to, for me, it's hard to look at this positively because of everything that's gone on. Like, you see people exiting left and right, and people exited the Han Solo movie or fired from, or whatever happened to the directors. And like, it sucks that the vision that was initially put out there is not going to happen. And that would have been interesting to see Joss Whedon's version of that. But I didn't read this part of the article. the part of the article where they're creating a space, hopefully for a woman-centric team
Could happen.
to come in and take over and be badass. I'm hoping they learn their lesson from Wonder Woman. Like it's written right there. This is what people want. This is what is going to get people interested in your movie. And if you do that, then do that and go 100%. You know?
Yeah, and that second part actually came from, so the Hollywood Reporter had the exclusive on it that had the Joss Whedon quote and sort of Warner Brothers' response. But this second part actually came from Variety's version of the article.
Okay.
Where they did some follow-ups with people at Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So that's why you didn't see it, because you were linked to the Hollywood Reporter version.
Yeah, okay.
Interesting too, because a lot of people were sort of going off of what Joss's quote was, which is, Batgirl is such an exciting project, and Warner's DC is so collaborative and are supportive and collaborative partners. It took me months to realize I don't really have a story. I'm grateful to Jeff and Toby and everyone who was so welcoming when I arrived and so understanding when I, is there a sexier word for failed?
Yeah.
A lot of people are sort of looking at that and saying, it took you you had a year to sort of figure out what the story for Batgirl could be. Why was it so difficult to find a story? There's plenty of mythology and history with that character, with what's happened to her in comic book history. Why was it so difficult for you to try to craft something? And there wasn't a completely extreme of this too, where people were like, see, this is why they brought on Joss Whedon to fix Justice League. This was all a sham. He was never going to do in the first place. And I'm like, shut up, relax.
Those are the people you mute.
Yeah. But
Yeah, and then
part
some,
of me
some
is
people also, sorry. Some people also looked at the thing where he says that he essentially failed,
yeah,
and people were
because Justice League. How we took it over and it
not
failed?
even that. I think that people
okay.
just they kind of honed in on that, and they were like, "Here's another example of a guy who even he admits that like he doesn't have something, but he's going to continue to get meetings and get deals and get it's another case of like people were pointing to that and going, this is a guy who can kind of fail upwards." Colin Trevorrow directed Jurassic World, and then he got Star Wars 9. Well, not anymore.
Right
Now he's going to not be able to do that, and he's going to have to work on something else. But to some people, they read that and it felt like that, maybe because they didn't like Joss Whedon's superhero movies or his previous work or his reputation or whatever, or his actions or whatever. But there's a lot of stuff to kind of read into that. But I think it also, anytime we read something like this or an announcement like this, I think you have to look at it as like, this is the most diplomatic possible version of this.
Absolutely.
We will never know the behind the
real
scenes,
stuff,
the real stuff. And I looked at this and I went, maybe, again, looking for that silver lining, maybe this is Joss Whedon saying, it took me months to realize I really didn't have a story. Translation, it took me months to realize I'm not the guy whose story should be told.
Exactly.
Maybe he is. Maybe this is Warner Brothers going, well, what if we like ask for some female writers and female directors to see what they could bring to this character? Not that whatever Joss Whedon would do wouldn't be bad
garbage.
automatically or good automatically,
right.
but again, look at what Patty Jenkins brought to the importance of Wonder Woman and her life experience with this character and her perspective. Look at what Ryan Coogler brought to Black Panther. Black Panther, especially in a case where it's a character in a fictionalized African country, Coogler's from Oakland. He brought Oakland to it. And that's fascinating and opened up a lot of possibility for stories because of that background, because of specifically that director's background. So maybe Joss Whedon's going, I really didn't have a story. Translation, we should go ask some other director or writer
who can bring something a little more valuable.
Because Batgirl means so many things to so many different people. But maybe the more interesting question today is, what does Batgirl mean to a woman director, woman writer, female director, female writer, female producers? Like, what does it mean? What does she mean? What
and I think Batgirl in particular, because she is of the Batman family, is a perfect way to sort of like the perfect next step from Wonder Woman to do that. It's not an obscure character. It's a character that people know pretty damn well. She's been around for a long time. So it's a perfect character to sort of step back, look at, and go, someone else's voice should tell the story. And
keep that momentum
and it's very
going.
appropriate. Yeah.
It's I mean, it seems like it's an I don't want to say appropriate move, but it seems like he's being a little bit more socially aware, now that the whole Me Too movement's going on. It's like, well, maybe this is his part of like giving people an opportunity, like he's a man in power. He's like, why don't I just create a little vacuum here, make space for somebody, and that's how you make a difference.
What was the name of the guy? The name of the actor who stepped down from Hellboy?
Ed Skrein.
Ed Skrein.
Yes, exactly.
Same thing, except Ed Skrein was very honest and forthcoming and did a whole post about him saying, I'm going to make space for what otherwise maybe an actor wouldn't have an opportunity like this for a minor or a major role or whatever. So we all knew exactly where he was coming from. And we all immediately forgave anything that the movie fucked up by casting him in the first place. Because we were like, awesome. Daniel Day Kim, like, dang, they really went above and beyond.
Everybody's
Once they corrected this
Yeah.
this thing that to a lot of people like is another example of like a bad trend or like
Yeah.
a bad thing in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, we might not know the behind the scenes, but there might be some behind the scenes that like tried to find a very diplomatic way to say this without wanting to again kind of put that lens under Warner Brothers Studio and go, well, why did you guys hire Joss in the first place for Batgirl? Why were you taking meetings with him, but no other female directors came in saying, hey, I have a take on Batgirl or Supergirl or Gotham City Sirens or a Harley Quinn movie or a Wonder Woman 2 or 3 or an Amazon's movie, like whatever. So I don't know, maybe this whole thing just read like it's diplomatic. We'll never know the whole thing, but this could be good.
And also, creating art is hard. Like Adam, you wrote a movie. It was difficult. Like it's tough really
shit.
hard, and you don't know until later on that you might or might not have something that actually works. Like same goes with like drawing, any kind of art that you do. Like it's something that at the end of the day you have to be in love with the product. And if he's not in love with the product,
don't do the movie.
Yeah, don't do the movie. It's actually smart for him to bail now, rather than having another shit show movie.
Totally. Well, and I think they made the right move to do it the way that they did, because other times we've heard directors leave and no one ever really says anything. We just find out that that's the case. Nobody says anything, and you're like, is this on good terms, on bad terms? You see Rick Famuyiwa make his post that Black Panther made more money than Justice League in the first week, and you're like, ooh, there's some bad blood here.
That's a dig. That's a hardcore dig.
And even Rick Famuyiwa had like a comment, a statement from when they mutually parted sides or whatever. So
but it was that very
PR.
But it was that very creative differences, sort of
the one that we hear 1,000 times every time somebody splits from something.
This is the first time we've gotten a statement that's been more of like, I have nothing to contribute this. There's someone better out there for it, more or less.
That's refreshing because it's
I'd rather hear that than creative differences.
Right,
honestly.
exactly. Be like, no, we're still on great terms. Creative differences, blah blah blah. Like, no, dude, be honest. Because honestly, that makes me more of a fan of Joss because I feel he's being real with us. So
a little bit, because I also think that people did read into like, really, you had months, and Joss is a great writer and a great director. Like he couldn't come up with something for Batgirl. Seems a little fishy. That it's like, I don't know if we
people to screenwrite a movie.
It's like but still, it's like this dude has done this before. You know, so it's
true.
And people just love Batgirl so much, and there's so much story potential there that it just seemed a little fishy for there to be this sort of kind of like. The reason being like, just honestly, writer's block, couldn't come up with it. I think there's some other stuff behind the scenes happening that maybe could lead to some good stuff. I hope.
Yeah, and
I'm rooting
maybe
for it.
people out there who are speculating maybe has something to do with Justice League. Maybe you're not wrong. I mean,
that would be a bummer.
We're not gonna know. We're not gonna know.
It's all speculation.
Exactly. But another cool thing that was revealed: the TV show Krypton gave us a first look at Brainiac. And holy shit, I was really impressed.
I need to see this.
I thought it was really cool.
You haven't seen the image yet?
No, you guys talk about
it looks a lot.
It
More or less, I mean, based on the interview, there's an interview with the actor who plays Sagel, Cameron, I forget his last name, but he's talking about the character, and he talks about how much he loved the Gary Frank, Jeff Johns run, Superman Brainiac, and the design looks very much like it. So
Ooh, is that him?
Yeah, it must be coming from that run in terms of visual aesthetic. Story-wise, I'm not sure.
I think story-wise, I think we might see some similarities to Superman the Animated Series.
Which I thought was so good.
Those first 3 episodes and how they incorporated Brainiac into the origin of Krypton.
I like
and Krypton exploding because of Brainiac.
Right.
Brainiac not saving it, and then
Collector of Worlds.
him later becoming that enemy of Kal-El, the last son of Krypton. So
Oh, so this looks a lot like the Injustice version of Brainiac,
which again is also based off of that Gary Frank art, where there's been
Ooh,
so many different versions of Brainiac over the years. There's been so many
Brainiac
different
on Supergirl.
Not just that, but even within the comics, there were all these different. There was like Vril Dox, and there was like Brainiac's just a robot skeleton, and there was so many different versions. And Brainiac's now a thing that can like move its consciousness into different bodies. Blah 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 blah. That when Jeff Johns and Gary Frank put this story together, Superman Brainiac. If you haven't read it yet, go get it. Go find it. They kind of streamlined it, and they were like, okay, every other Brainiac was like a probe. Was like a sort of like a
copy, like a Doombot
clone, a Doombot. This is the real guy, and they made him this huge, beefy, like he's bigger and buffer than Superman. And then they kind of revealed this whole thing is like, yeah, I've been traveling the universe this whole time, collecting worlds, and now I finally got to Earth, and now I'm gonna fuck with you, Superman. And it was great.
Wow,
it was really great.
I saw the photos and I was like, man, this is so impressive that this sci-fi show can make this Brainiac look so fucking rad. Why can't we get him in a movie? What a cool. I mean, that exactly what you just explained is like. Yeah. What a cool premise for a movie. You have this villain, and you could. The cool thing about doing a character like Brainiac is that you can have other lower tier villains, like ones that are not as big, like maybe even a character like Metallo. But then you have this bigger threat of Brainiac show up, in the second act or something.
Yeah,
and then that's what I would stakes elevate even higher. Like, what a great way to craft a Superman movie.
I would love a Superman movie that has, like you said, Metallo, maybe Parasite, and like the beginning, like an Act 1 guy. Luthor's obviously there, and Luthor's been in communication with something, some sort of higher intelligence. It's Brainiac. He shows up. Right. I honestly, there's a version of the movie Man of Steel that was the same conflict between Superman and Zod, but you could have just swapped out Zod with Brainiac, fudged some stuff, and it would have been the same movie. Totally. And Superman could have still done the same thing at the end, and it would have been a movie that had Brainiac, because we have yet to see Brainiac in a movie. He was almost in Tim Burton's movie when that was almost going to be a thing.
Almost.
So. Yeah. I love Brainiac. It's one of my favorite Superman villains.
Yeah, he's great. He's one of those villains that's like Doom level, kind of scary. When he shows up, you know something's gonna go down, like really, really bad. So I agree with you guys. It's cool that they're doing this. And to go back to your point, Adams, why can't they make this into movies? It's weird how TV shows always take a bigger risk. Like
which was never
willing.
The case.
No, they were very traditional.
Like Smallville took some chances with certain villains, but visually, all the villains looked like humans. Like even Brainiac in that show,
because there's no
played
budget.
by James Marsters, he looked like a human. And he had some powers.
Because there's no budget. Like it's interesting to look at the shift in things now. Even Netflix was saying that they're going to spend a lot less time making movies and going to TV shows. So the amount
of people that are signing deals at Netflix, hopefully
insane.
TV survives.
It's insane. I mean, but that's the thing. Like traditional TV's going by the wayside. Young kids don't watch TV anymore. It's all on YouTube. It's all here. So what's going on now is that there's this major shift, and I honestly I'm not mad at this, because I like if we could get movie style budgets onto a TV show, like an episodic. For sure. Look at Jessica Jones. Look at all these Marvel Netflix series.
I mean, that's basically Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I've heard rumors, of how much the Westworld pilot cost.
Yeah,
and it is more than most films.
Yeah,
it is a movie. That's nuts.
Hey, Kaiju,
shut your mouth. Get out of here, Kaiju. But yeah, I think that's he's running.
Kaiju's hiding.
Hey, get out of here.
Kaiju's like, he won't find me behind all of these
wires.
He's like,
sticks and wires.
But yeah, no, it's interesting to see this shift, and I hope that this bodes well for maybe we'll see a badass show come off of this that also has maybe Brainiac or some of the other legendary like Superman villains. And maybe we'll get even better stories out of it, like stories that can fully breathe. And I keep saying this, but I remember one time I was watching a movie and I was like, why isn't this longer? Like I could totally go for this in a series.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think the series works better when you're trying to tell a super epic story that way.
I think that's why I'm kind of excited about the Titans show that's coming to the DC streaming service.
A lot of potential.
Because I think there's a lot of potential for them to take budgets and just strictly focus it on their digital platform, and they're 100% in control of what that is. They can make it. It can be whatever style it wants to be because it's their platform. That's what excites me is like, I wouldn't be mad if in like 5-10 years DC was like, or Warner's was like, you know what? We're gonna distribute a superhero movie to Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Superman movie, or like some, maybe if it was like a Hawkman, I'd be like, I'm in for
like
it.
a Hawkman, like just follow the cookie cut. Just an 8-episode Hawkman series to get you excited, and then tease a bunch of other heroes into it.
Do that.
You know, it's a good little jump off point that's kind of unexpected, kind of out of left field. That'll get people really hyped if you really do it right, you know? And I think it's a good opportunity in which, like, you could really go for what we still haven't felt yet with the Marvel Netflix universe and the movie universe colliding together. Like, tie that shit together and then release an epic movie, like a 2-hour movie where they all meet together and something happens, and then bring it back to Netflix. Bring it back to a streaming service.
I think a lot of the Marvel movies have very rightfully, like, they're kind of emulating the Marvel Comics pattern of, like, Captain America Civil War is the big event, the summer event.
Exactly.
And they knew to pick the street level heroes to be like, well, this could be a TV show just because budget, just because practicality.
Right.
What you described it earlier, Augustine, was like some of that long form storytelling that just feels better with a TV show coming from the comic book world. We have already seen that with stuff like Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow. When those shows are firing on all cylinders, they're firing on all cylinders. And some of those special effects are like, again, even where we came to 10 years ago from Smallville, 10 years before that with like Lois and Clark and the original Flash show, 10 years before that with like, Incredible Hulk, Wonder Woman, like it's been incredible leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
These sort of Superman level leaps and bounds. You see what I did there?
I see what you did
between these
buildings
in the TV world. And I think I'll always still prefer my superhero stuff in movies because movies give me that massive budget and those huge.
Absolutely.
But some stories are better suited. Look at how we got Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
That shit looked dope. And I never would have thought, for years, I was like, well, Ghost Rider has to be a movie, maybe a trilogy.
Because
it's like,
the budget. Because the Flaming Skull.
I'm like, because of that. Because, he's this big thing in the supernatural world of Marvel and he gives his own movie. But now I'm like, you got to give Moon Knight his own show. Give Ghost Rider his own show. Give the Doom Patrol a TV show. This weird group of outsider misfits on the side. And Titans is really exciting because we could see, in these shows, we're seeing more characters than we will ever see in movies just because even if Warner Brothers was making DC superhero movies at the same pace that Marvel's making their movies, 2-3 a year, we would still not get to some characters until 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many characters that's what TV does. It's like,
it gives you more of an opportunity. That's why I'm totally in favor for going for more of a long, like a long form storytelling and then blending it. I don't see why they haven't made that, like just TV stations in general haven't made that crossover yet.
That's why I've always talked about it. I've said it so many times. Like I wish a show like The Flash would just condense its season to like 8 episodes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But be 1 full hour.
Absolutely.
And then use that money that they don't spend on the other 15 to put it into these 8.
Right. Exactly.
And you could have such a higher concept.
And also it sucks that
I wonder if that will ever change.
It sucks that the TV format is, we got to wait until the ratings come in to see if you're going next season, because that's such a hamper on the writing. Like you have to potentially wrap something up at the end of the season because you don't know if you're going to have a job next season. It sucks. Like you're putting your writers in a shitty spot to be in, whereas if a TV station would say, okay, we're greenlighting 3 seasons of this, give us a bomb-ass 3-season, 8-episode arc.
Yeah.
Boom, go. TV would be so much better.
Right.
But the way that TV production works, something like The Flash, I don't think could ever go from 22 episodes to 8 episodes because it would mean a ton of people are out of jobs over various weeks when they're producing a show up in Vancouver and unions would come into play, like all this stuff with actors would be out of work for as opposed to
longer,
because it's also a business and these kinds of longer form TV shows that they do serve a purpose and a slot in whatever budgets these networks have and all that other stuff that we never think about with a lot of factors, but ideally for storytelling, I feel like writers would love that stuff, but I'm sure writers love getting paid for the X number of scripts that they, you know what I mean? So it's I get that it's a business, but I think that maybe someday TV will start to change. It kind of is because Game of Thrones, Westworld, these things are evolving the whole idea of television into something different. Even what we saw from even like a 13-episode season when Daredevil first came out on Netflix, we were all like, "Oh, this is great! It's way better than 22." Yeah. And then when it went from that to 8 episodes with Defenders, we were like, "Even better!
Even better!
Make them shorter! Make them
with Stranger
shorter!"
Things, I'm like,
perfect.
I'm all about
Stranger
it.
Things is a great example. But so maybe someday all of this kind of stuff will look at television shows differently, and then they really will be like, we got this great idea. Let's do 3 8-episode seasons, and then at the end it'll be in a movie. Like,
I think it just takes for a show to just have the balls to do it. Like Breaking Bad, there was a lot of seasons where Breaking Bad was only, or a couple at least, where the show, the season, and I think the first one was only 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Really short. So I mean, like, you can do it, but I think you have to sort of plan for it. Like, okay, we're gonna do.
You have to have faith in your property.
Exactly.
Too,
we're gonna do. We're gonna do 8 episodes of Flash season 4, and instead of coming back in 6 months or in a year, we'll come back in 6. Like, there's a way to do it.
There's a way to work around it, and it feels like the TV and the movie industry is so afraid of change and so afraid of adjusting because they've done things for the same way for 100 years. And now it's just like, guys, we're all changing. Like, everybody's evolving. This younger generation than us is only watching YouTube. Like, either you adapt or you're gonna go extinct.
Yeah, I mean,
It
and
feels like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of did that because they started breaking up their seasons to be like season 4 part 1 is
Right.
Ghost Rider, season 4 part 2 is
Yeah, a lot
LMD,
of shows did that. They
Life
were going
Model
hiatus
Decoy.
halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of
they're
shows started
already
doing that.
maybe kind of breaking it up like that, but it's not the same as like
It's
you
not the
said,
same,
Adam. Like
no.
we're gonna do season 4 and then we'll
Yeah.
come back in 6 months with season
Right,
5 and
right.
then
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's very different. So
we'll
I don't
see.
know.
We'll see. Yeah, and
It'll
I'm
be
sure.
interesting to
I'm sure
follow.
advertising has a big play in that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. It'd be so interesting to
Commercials
see.
suck. TV commercials, boo.
Right? It'd be so interesting to see a TV show
Oh, you're
sort of
gonna
fully
see a
embrace
commercial
that.
no matter what.
I know.
Yeah,
I
no
know.
matter what, you're gonna see a commercial.
Yeah.
I got an email the other day that AT&T is offering cable service now. So it's basically another streaming
Different than Uverse?
like Play View, yeah, like the PlayStation View,
Yeah.
like that kind of service where they offer you cable but through
Yeah.
your internet.
Mhm.
So
Internet.
like internet's a thing.
That thing they call the internet.
interweb.
Yeah.
So I think is some change coming. It's just
Yeah.
it's very slow.
Yeah.
The people
They're
are
very
so
slow to
hesitant.
adapt. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people have been saying that TV's going to go the way of the radio, where it kind of
I think it is.
went in like into a corner,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
TV took over. But we'll see.
And then
Absolutely.
podcast became a thing, and everyone's like, "I love audio."
Yeah,
but
audio
it's because podcasts had to
audio is
get
becoming
good.
huge again.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and you have so much selection too, to
convenient
listen
as
to whatever
fuck.
you want. Yeah.
You can either stare at us for an hour, or you can listen while you're driving home in traffic. You're welcome.
you love it.
Yeah, exactly. JJ was on Stephen Colbert's show, and they briefly talked about Star Wars Episode 9. He was there to promote a play that I guess he helped produce. It's on
Okay.
Broadway. But he talked about Episode 9.
Jeffrey
he said
Jacob.
Jeffrey Jacob. That's what
Jingleheimer
it is.
Jeffrey
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Jeffrey
Yep.
Jacob Jingleheimer
Abrams.
Schmidt.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
But he was there promoting.
That's my name too.
Is it really?
Yeah, his name is my name too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his name is my name too.
He was there promoting a play, and we were talking about Episode 9. He says he's got a script. He's been writing with Chris Terrio. He says one of the very few times he's actually had a script before he started shooting, which okay.
Oh, that's scary.
That's a little
but
terrifying.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's how it works sometimes. And they're starting production apparently at the end of July. So I'm excited about this. I was one of those people who was like, really, we're bringing back JJ. But
Yeah.
if with JJ coming back to Episode 9, what do you want to see from Episode 9 that's different than what he did with 7?
Oh, that's different
Okay.
than what you did
That
with
kind of
7?
rides,
Well,
off of what Episode 8 did.
So it's going to be interesting because of where Ryan Johnson left us off.
Right.
He left us off with this story could wrap here forever, or like we could choose to continue it at this point. I mean, we're obviously going to continue with Rey.
Yeah.
Obviously going to continue with Finn and Poe. It's going to be interesting to see where he takes it now that the tradition and all the expectations have sort of been shed. You know, it's kind of like a blank slate, which is really freaking cool actually.
Yeah.
Because I loved what he did with the pilot of Lost, which it's what got me to watch this show.
One of the greatest pilots ever.
Exactly. It's an amazing pilot, and so I think he's gonna come out of left field and just surprise us with
I
something.
hope so. I think it was really interesting to watch this long form interview that Ryan Johnson did at Q&A. Started watching it, haven't finished it yet, but he talked about how he was writing episode 8, The Last Jedi, while they were filming The Force Awakens, and he said that he was watching it and some of those performances influenced how he was writing The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Because again, he knew what was kind of going down. He was
Right.
brought in on it, but then when he was brought in to write 8, The Last Jedi, he's seeing dailies. He's seeing as they're filming The Force Awakens, and he's going, "Oh, Poe is this.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is this.
Yeah.
John Boyega is this. Daisy Ridley's this. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
And it influenced his story. He said that he had asked J.J. Abrams to make one change.
Yeah.
Originally, Rey went to the island, the Scarif planet. No, is that what it was called?
Octo.
Octu.
which-
Octu, that one.
where
Octu.
Luke is.
Luke is, yeah. Well, Scarif is a Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
She went to Octu, and she took Chewbacca and BB-8. And Ryan Johnson was like, actually, I want R2-D2 to go. Can you swap that? And they swapped it.
No
so it's
way.
R2-D2 to have this moment with Luke where he's
Yeah.
like, that's a cheap move. That great line.
Yeah.
So he asked JJ to make that change. So then the interviewer asked him, did you make any change for what JJ's doing for 9? And he goes, no, because of the production schedule, like I was like done.
Yeah.
Before they
Yeah.
kind
There was
but like
overlap.
Before they
he,
even
like,
started
he
talking
just
about
turned
it,
in
yeah.
the script just now. So
Yeah.
what I want to see from that movie is basically in the same way that Ryan Johnson, to me, my interpretation of the film was he basically proved why Star Wars is important to the world in a meta way within that story. I want JJ to, this is tough, not do any mystery box shit, not do any, but I want him to definitively end the saga.
Absolutely.
That's asking a lot, but I cannot help but feel the pressure of that from going from 4, 5, and 6 back
Right.
to the prequels 1, 2, and 3,
Right.
which are just serving to prop up 4, 5, and 6
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
To now we're at 7, 8, and then 9.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to be like this needs to come out and be promoted in the trailers of like the end of evil in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like good will fucking finally prevail forever. Like it needs to be Rey versus Kylo Ren, and then JJ. I want him to say something. I want the movie to have themes, to be thematic, to say something about what these stories mean to us and to people. Same way Ryan did, but like lean into that shit and then just end it.
And just be
And
done
then
with it.
if they need to at the very end do something to kind of say like, and these characters will live forever. Like, of course, Rey went on to have. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or maybe if she dies, but whatever. Just like the same way Broom Kid just let us know, like, oh, this will always happen.
Yeah, this is gonna be a thing.
There needs to be. There wasn't anything like that at the end of Return of the Jedi, which is a little disappointing. It was like we killed Luke or we killed Vader.
Yeah.
The Empire's defeated. Ewoks celebrate. Done. It didn't have this thing of like, and Luke, Leia, and Han will be here for you for all time. Like this kind of thing where you're just crying and just like, fuck yeah, man, Star Wars. That you didn't have that. I want that with whatever JJ says at the like. I just want the ending of this movie to just be,
Well,
that's it.
I honestly, I think that's kind of inherent in the actual like story itself because Disney's never gonna let this die. Like Star Wars is gonna continue, and we have plans for Star Wars from now until the end of time, basically.
6 more movies planned
Yeah.
outside of the solo
Exactly,
movies.
outside of the solo movies.
Yeah. Ooh.
Two trilogies.
What I want is a definitive end to this Skywalker Han Solo saga.
Rey,
I don't want to the next 30 years of Star Wars to be, well, Kylo Ren and Rey had this fight back then, and we need to move on because we absolutely need to move on from Luke.
It's already
And-
it's
and
already
we
9
have.
movies about a Skywalker.
Yeah,
9.
we already have. We have no choice but to move on from Carrie Fisher, and then Han Solo passed away. So we are moving on and progressing. And what sucks is that the fan base doesn't always necessarily accept that kind of stuff.
Right.
So a lot of fans know that the world is vast, and it's
Yeah.
like, give us some other stories, give us 1,000 years in the past, 1,000 years in the future,
That's what we need
side
to
quests,
see.
all that
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
So I think we will see that, but I would love for this movie to end where it's like no more Skywalkers, like the story of Ben Solo will end, but also some of these characters that you love, if they're still alive at the end of this movie, like, hey, just that feeling
Here's
of like
Lando.
feeling good. Yeah, finally, Billy D
They better
just
bring back
shows
Lando.
up.
Billy D,
just shows
Billy
up.
D, and then, and
yeah.
then Donald Glover
I do
in
not-
a time warp.
I do not want
and
them
then
to
it's a
set
buddy
up.
cop movie.
Be dope.
It's Looper.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Black Looper
Exactly.
in space.
Blooper. Never mind. Blooper.
Black Looper. That'd be better than the movie Looper, which I didn't love. Ryan Johnson, sorry, I didn't love it. That'd be amazing. But no, I just don't want episode 9 to set up for 10, 11, 12.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Because episode 6 did not set up for 7.
Right.
And 3 just went right into 4,
Yeah.
but
Right.
there was still 30 years different. I don't want there to be like any
The only thing that I think hinders that possibility is the fact that George Lucas wrote an outline for 12 movies originally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was going to be 3 trilogies. The
Right.
first trilogy was Jedi Wars, then Clone Wars, and then I think it was Clone Wars, Star Wars, and then Jedi Wars. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I imagine that Lucasfilm would want to make episodes forever.
Right.
Episode 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Yeah.
15, 16, 17 until we get to like 30
Until we
years
get
from
tired
now.
of it.
Yeah, and we're at
Yeah.
episode 74 and
Yeah.
but I think the only way that the Star Wars saga can sustain by doing that is if with every new trilogy it's a passing of the torch, and it's not just the Skywalkers. Now,
Right. It's other people.
exactly. Now we've dealt with Skywalkers and Rey. Maybe the next
Yeah.
trilogy is a time jump, and it's this Broom Kid Jedi, and it's his story. And then the next trilogy is
Right.
like, I think that's the only way you can sort of keep it fresh.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to continue the Skywalker story forever, I don't think this trilogy is even set up for that, honestly,
No.
because Kylo Ren is not going to come out of this having any children.
yeah.
No.
unless
it's not.
unless Rey turns and they have to get right, like unless Rey has kids and they get together and they do the boom boom in the bedroom.
Force baby.
I don't think the
No, no
Skywalker.
passes.
I don't think the Skywalker like lineage will survive.
And also just think about what Star Wars did in the past and why it was such a big deal. There was such an amount of like mysticism behind it and exploring a brand new universe. And that's what got people really excited. That's what kids were really into back in the day. And that's why the movie made it, because there were these characters that we'd never seen before,
Yeah.
and these worlds we've never seen before, and that's why I love what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi, because he kind of broke away from everything else we had in the past, and JJ now has the opportunity to say, we're gonna see some whole new shit that like you don't even know what's coming right now, not just like. Yeah, of course we're going to see practical effects and puppets and things like that, which is always something that I think the movie should have because it's the charm that those things give. But it's just like a whole nother like side of the universe that we keep talking about that we need to see. It's there, and that gives us the opportunity to explore this whole new side. It's like Elon Musk going out into space. Like he's trying to reignite that space race. And people are getting excited about it, and that's what I want back in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I do think it's going to be really hard to continue the Skywalker saga. I just don't think it's there, and I think what Rian Johnson did with Luke Skywalker is sort of his way of saying this can't be the Skywalker saga forever, because that is sort of that I think that just limits what Star Wars can do as a trilogy. And with these two new trilogies coming out, I don't know. We obviously don't know where they're going to fall, where Rian Johnson's will fall, and where the Game of Thrones creators trilogy will fall. But I would actually love to see Star Wars go into the future. I think being the fact that it's a fantasy set in a futuristic sci-fi world is like
it's already in the future.
You're gonna go into the future, even though this is a long time ago in the future. Like, okay, that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
I want to see some
where it's
really
just like
cool
normal
shit.
Earth people.
Can you imagine if they ever did a Star Wars movie that opened with a long time from now in a galaxy far, far? Everyone would be like, what? And it's like their technology
Star
super
Trek.
different. And yeah, exactly.
Hector would be the happiest person in the world.
He'd be like, oh fuck!
He'd be on the Enterprise with lightsabers.
I get it now. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be kind of cool.
That
But we'll see. We'll see what
Captain,
happens.
I'm sensing a disturbance in the force.
Oh shit! That'd be kind of dope.
Yeah, that would be great.
They put on their robes.
Last thing we're going to talk about this really cool video that Ryan Coogler did. I believe it was for Vanity Fair. It's a scene breakdown of the casino fight scene from Black Panther. Now I'll link the video in the description. You absolutely have to check it out.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this because as someone who does this sort of stuff and looks at movies and how they film them, how they break it down, the mechanics of how they work, where they put the camera, how they choreograph action, all that sort of stuff. This was 8 minutes of so much education.
Yeah.
It was
brilliant. It was bliss.
And you can see just by him just being so descriptive about the costumes, the set design, the actors, the motion, the action, the camera movement, it goes to show how talented he is, how much attention to detail he has, and how much he deeply, deeply cares about the movie he's making. It doesn't matter that it's Black Panther. It doesn't matter if it's Creed. He just cares so much about the material. Yeah, and it was just like, it was just bleeding out of him when he was talking about it. It was incredible.
Tradition
passion.
Versus innovation.
Yes.
Right.
Like
that's what he wrote down
characters.
there.
I was
because he had Okoye fighting upstairs, and she's tradition.
Yeah.
And then how do you say her name?
Nakia.
I keep thinking Nokia because of the phone. But Nakia, so she's like the one who he described as like, she'll grab anything and beat your ass with it. Like she grabs her shoe and like they
That's
talk
right,
about,
she beats him with a shoe.
Yeah, and then they talks about the significance of being barefoot, but he also talks about the significance and why Okoye says this thing's disgraceful when she has the wig on, because she absolutely finds it disgraceful that she has to cover her head, which her head is a symbol of pride to the Dora Milaje. It's beautiful. And then how Black Panther. What? He didn't really dive into Black Panther very much, did he?
Not too much in terms of the fighting style, but mostly talking about how he also has to have his own fighting style because he's super powered.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. He's got the. I mean, you can see that with the jump.
Kick.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He does. He does say he kind of touches on that.
Yanks this guy with a wire.
But
it's
just
it's the way the camera moves and
the not the crane shot, the wire
like
shot.
Wire.
Yeah.
And then he said a guy up there.
An operator like grabs it. Yeah.
So cool.
I highly recommend you watch it. This is the kind of stuff that made me want to go into movies.
Yeah.
And it's just I geek out every time somebody does.
Plus,
something
the thing
like
that was
this.
super impressive to me is like sometimes when you look at a script, you have to break it down, and the script features an action sequence that has multiple characters.
Right.
It's overwhelming to look at it and go, okay, what is the placement of all of these characters? How do we track it through this whole scene? How do you continuity-wise make sure that they are where they're supposed to be whenever when you change scenes, you change directions and angles? to me, the fact that he was so just on top of like, Ulysses Claw's here because in the next shot he's going to be here, and this is where he was previously, and he's like drawing out on the tablet like where Ulysses Claw is, even though you can't see him.
Because
he
explains why, because he had a model of the room built, and he was playing with toys inside planning the scene.
I love it.
It's amazing, and it goes to show that like filmmaking can be some bullshit like Michael Bay makes, and just as a money grab in a fucking terrible garbage movie, or you can be somebody like a Coogler and spend time and put your love and put your passion into something like that. The Pan-African flag with the costumes is a beautiful touch.
So good.
Like just everything.
green.
He explains that most of the practical, the effects were practical in the movie, and I appreciate that because it gives it a realness. It's just all these things that a director has to think about and a director has to put into this movie and makes me appreciate things a lot more. And I wish more people broke it down that way.
And the thing I love too is he talks about the language.
Oh yeah, he talks about the language
how when
too.
Okoye says to stand down, and she doesn't realize that the South African soldier part of Ulysses Claw's team can understand
And
her.
he understands
As the
it.
audience, you're like, how does he know how to react to that?
Right,
But then
right.
Ryan Coogler tells you, and you're like, oh shit,
You're
that
like,
changes the whole thing.
yeah,
now.
this changes everything.
It definitely deepened my appreciation for that sequence.
Absolutely.
And
Totally.
I cannot wait to hopefully watch Black Panther with a commentary track
In 3D.
Oh,
in 3D. Would be dope. Yeah.
if this Blu-ray does not
have a
commentary track and it doesn't have an extent. That was the one thing I will say. Talking about Last Jedi, the Blu-ray commercial made me excited because there's a commentary track with Ryan Johnson, and there's supposed to be a documentary, a feature-length documentary about the making of it with Ryan Johnson. I want that for Black Panther.
Yes.
I want Ryan Coogler to like have a full
I want that
documentary
for every movie that I love,
Yeah,
especially those.
That's the thing that frustrates me about a lot of these movies is like the special features kind of suck. And I want really deep and extensive like documentary style featurettes that I can watch and really sort of get into see the perspective of the director and see why he looked at this the way why this was designed this way, why he decided to shoot it with like this lens and that setup. I love that sort of stuff. And like you mentioned Lord of the Rings, I talk about the Phantom Menace. Some of the most extensive Blu-rays and DVDs that I've seen that have had some of the best documentaries.
That's why I own two versions of Lord of the Rings, the theatrical and the extended cut, because of the extra 10 hours of bonus footage. But also that's why I love Guillermo del Toro. When he was making the house movie, what was it called?
Crimson Peak?
Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
So he gave everybody a character outline, but also gave every character a secret that only that character knows.
That's right.
And none of the other character knows. It's just adds so much depth to the story you're telling, and it can add to the performances and everything. It's brilliant, and I wish I could think like those storytellers. But that's why I watch these special features.
I envy them
Because it's just like,
great.
oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah,
really
love that talent.
I appreciate it.
Super exciting. But yeah, you should definitely go watch it. It's so interesting. They have other ones on there too. I think there was one that Taika did for Thor Ragnarok, but the one for Thor Ragnarok was a little bit more. It wasn't as in depth, and it didn't have as many layers as Ryan Coogler brought to that one.
Yeah.
But it was still really good. It was sort of more of like, how did we shoot this with having so many complicated things happening? It was really good too. But this Black Panther one was like, talked about themes, and it was very deep and rich.
I want more.
Yeah,
I want more.
Guys, thank you so much for watching another week of Hyper Heroes. Very exciting stuff. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about everything that we talked about. Who should replace Joss Whedon as the director of Batgirl? I think that's the biggest burning question right now. Let us know all your thoughts in the comments below. And Hector, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at 500 GF podcast on Twitter or at Hector is Funny, because on Monday we're dropping the episode, actually Sunday night at midnight, with Agustin, when we talk about Amores Perros and we Mexican it up. He brought his insight.
We go deep into
We
the
talk
Mexican
about a
stuff.
bunch of different stuff, not just that movie, but if you have time, go see that movie, go rent it on Amazon, watch it, and then if you've never seen it, check it out. If you like Birdman, if you like The Revenant, same director, watch it. It's from the year 2000.
Yeah.
It was a great discussion, man. Me, Keller, and Augustine just tearing it up, and so
go to town.
we would appreciate that support, and then if you like it, like let people know. But don't tweet at us like, watch this movie next, because we got the set list, baby. And we're talking Halloween in like October.
That's right. I went to the locations a couple days back.
Yeah.
It was dope.
Did you get scared?
No.
Oh.
Pasadena is like such a friendly
I know it
place.
is. It's so happy and
Especially
bright
South
out there.
Pasadena.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
You can find me at @L_Santo Taco. And if you have deals on toys, I'm collecting like everything Black Panther right now. Tweet it at me.
Okay.
Tweet it.
Oh, that's right.
at
You went to
me.
the toy store. They had nothing Black
They
Panther.
had nothing Black
Yeah, dude,
Panther,
they
so
cleaned
now
out.
I'm like, I need to buy everything. I need to buy it all. What if it's gone? Oh my God.
Where is it?
Where is it? So yeah.
Tight.
El Santo Taco.
Mhm.
You just find me at Adam Hlavik. You can also find me at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Adam Hlavik. Kaiju don't eat any cables. And we'll catch you next week. Bye.